would be to have a description under your product that says, for Tesla automobiles, it's important to have the right kind of Tesla floor mats. Tesla floor mats are really important because Tesla, right? And just over and over and over again. You know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to just throw up all over the screen with content that's all the same, you're going to flood and wind up decreasing your effectiveness of your SEO.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. Amazon is perhaps the most visited site for e-commerce, and its product filters will probably be the most used feature on its site. Product filters help you find the products you are looking for without going through thousands or millions of products that the site might carry. Well-designed websites understand your journey deeply, and they are guiding you as you use the site. On the other hand, poorly designed websites either have too many or too few filters and ignore the user's viewpoint while designing the site. Irrespective of whether you are a B2B or B2C business, you need a sophisticated product filter strategy to provide the buying experience that your customers desire. In today's episode, we invited an expert panel of cross-functional experts for a live interview on LinkedIn who brings significant expertise with product filter design and e-commerce to discuss the best practices of designing product filters. We also had a chance to discuss the competing features such as on-site search, voice, and several other trends such as AI and how they would redefine the place for product filters. Finally, we have had a chance to discuss real-life scenarios of poor filter design and its implications on the user experience. With that, let's get to the conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to WBS Rocks e-commerce LinkedIn Live series. And today we are going to be talking about product filters. We have very exciting panel here who have done significant work in the e-commerce space. They bring significant expertise on the concept of product filters that drive your customer experience, that drive your navigation, it drives your SEO. So we are going to be touching this topic from multiple perspectives. Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Steve Rice, and I work with .com Jungle and my own consulting company, and we help other companies, especially CPG companies, make and implement wise technology choices, usually in conjunction with the marketing team. Gives us insight into sort of everything that's happening across the silos.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction, Steve. Eric, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, I'm Eric Landman with Earthling Interactive. I'm the manager of the e-commerce division and have spent about the last dozen years or so building around 50 or 60 e-commerce sites of various capabilities and different platforms on lots of different platforms: OS Commerce, ZenCart, Shopify, Magento, a whole big mess.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Eric, for the introduction. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Chris Harrington, Gen Alpha, president and co-founder. We are a product company. My experience has been in manufacturing. We work with equipment and parts manufacturers today in all things helping them sell online. So that's my experience. Glad to be here.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for the introduction. Dave, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Dave Meyer with BusyWeb here. We are a growth marketing agency focusing on WordPress, HubSpot, inbound marketing, and generating links and leads to our clients to help them close more deals. Been doing this for 22 years, and I'm also a speaker for Grow with Google. Thanks, Sam, for hosting us.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Dave, for the introduction. And Erin, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. So good to see you guys all again this week. I always look forward to this. I'm Erin Courtney. I'm the VP of Digital Services at Earthling Interactive. I work with Eric, and he's our e-commerce expert. In addition to e-commerce, we also help our clients with getting integrations into that e-commerce that'll be really effective for moving their business objectives forward. So thanks again for having me.
Of course. So now let's jump to today's topic. And obviously that is going to be product filters. So Eric, I am actually going to start with you. If you could cover what product filter is, just to give audience the background in terms of why they matter from the customer experience perspective. What is the difference between the product filter needs for B2B and B2C? If you have any context there, obviously Chris is going to be touching that from the B2B perspective a lot deeper. But if you could provide brief background in terms of what product filters are and why they matter for e-commerce merchants.
Product filters, or also called attributes or product attributes, are the things you see show up in either the top navigation or the secondary navigation, like sort by price or relevance or something like that. But more importantly, they show up in the left navigation typically for, you might see things like categories or sizes, colors. Those are the real basic examples. But in more complex examples, you might see more detailed attributes like size ranges if you're dealing with industrial products, or color swatches off to the left, or perhaps a brand if you have a consumer site shopping for brands. And all of those things need to be set up and configured individually. And there are a ton of different ways to do this. So one of our challenges with clients is actually getting them to really say what sort of behavior they're looking for and what their data is like, because a lot of times the data in their system or the data that they're providing on their ERP system it doesn't match their vision of how it should operate on the front end.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for the insight, Eric. Chris, do you want to touch this from the B2B perspective? What you have seen, are there any differences in terms of product filters, or the layout is going to be fairly similar, but the functionality may be different? So do you want to touch from the B2B perspective, what you have seen?
Sure. I think Eric covered it really well. The only thing that I would maybe add is from the functional perspective, it's really attributes and filters are designed to narrow the search results. So typically what's happening is companies or customers in the B2B world, companies are coming in, they're looking to find a certain product that they're going to buy that fits whatever they have to use that for. So the attributes are refining the search to get them to the exact thing that they need. In the automotive world, we often see make, model, year as an opportunity. So that might resonate with people as far as things that they've searched for in the past. But then it can be refined even further into dimensional attributes. It can be material types. It can be brands, as Eric mentioned. So very consistent with what Eric described.
Okay, so I am actually going to have a follow-up question, Chris, for you from the B2B perspective. And obviously, in case of B2B, there is always going to be confusion around what e-commerce really is. And we have had a lot of debates overall. Some people like to define it as when you are doing the payment over website, then only it is going to be qualified as e-commerce. But we all, as the e-commerce practitioner, know that even if you are mapping just the sales process, just making it easier for the customers, especially in the B2B space, that is probably going to be e-commerce, right? So in your case, when you say that, you are mapping these attributes, when you are mapping the search criteria to drive the search. So is it really from the customer's perspective, the customers that are visiting the site, or is it really from the inside salespeople's perspective? They are going to be using the site so that they can walk the customers through the search results. So when you say you are using these search filters, is it from customer's perspective or from the salespeople perspective?
That's a great question. I believe that an e-commerce site is a tool that's designed to be used by everyone. So when you think about the customer journey, it's not just the customer journey, it's the employee journey, which is your call center, your customer service group, and your technical support group for industrial organizations as well. So I would say your attributes have to account for both scenarios. If you are an organization that's trying to drive sales from a self-service perspective to the end user, in our world, that end user is somebody who owns the asset, right, and is coming in to identify the exact product that they need. That end user has to be able to go through those filters without the support of a salesperson if you're trying to drive revenue through them. Now, there could be scenarios where there are maybe a more complex sale. And in that case, maybe some salesperson, a customer support person, or even a technical support person is facilitating the search. So I think you have to account for both scenarios, Sam, if you really want to ensure that it's a tool that's used by everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in fact, I think you bring a very good point that you probably should be treating your salespeople as your customers, because if they are not able to navigate through the site, then obviously that is going to impact the customer experience. If they are struggling in front of the customer, that sort of speaks that probably either your salespeople are not really trained or you don't really have your game figured out. So yeah, so treat your salespeople as your customers. So Steve, now I'm actually going to move to you, because when I look at the outdoor retail world, it's a very complex world overall from the search and the preferences perspective when we look at the consumers. And the reason why it is so complex is because we are talking about fashion in case of outdoor retail, right? So obviously you are going to have a lot more attributes than some other verticals. You might see that in the industrial equipment space as well. But I think when we talk about the fashion-centric verticals, they are slightly more challenging overall from the customer experience perspective, also from the user experience perspective. So what has been your experience? How are product filters different in your space? And if somebody is developing their site for the first time, what do they need to know about product filters?
Great question. And I think I'm gonna back up and slightly ask a different question or answer a different question, which is that if you look under the hood of what we're talking about right now, an attribute set is something that you can apply to, say, clothing. You know, is it small, medium, large, extra large? Is it red, green, blue, or black, right? Sort of that simple. What people don't really recognize off the bat is that an attribute set is not something that you call a product in the database world. You create attribute sets before you ever create a product, and then you apply products to them. The reason that's important is it's essentially a template. This is a way of making life easier for us. It's a way of knowing that when I buy a large, regardless of what size I get, it's always going to be a large, assuming that there's nothing wrong in the manufacturing facility. So when you talk about an attribute set, you're talking about a bunch of values that can be applied to a product. And when you're talking about database management and information management, the question that you're asking about what values do we put inside these different sets, that actually is an answer that actually has nothing to do with whether you're B2B, whether you're a wholesale person, a retail person, or anything else. It solely has to do with that product. What you do with it after that is how it gets represented, which is sort of what we're talking about now. So it sort of in answer to your question, my answer to you about the retail world and the outdoor world is actually, it's exactly the same. And it may actually be less convoluted. Like, I'm glad I don't work in technology, like selling widgets, electronic widgets, you know, because now we're talking about like microns and nanometers and SSD and all sorts of attributes like that. In my world, we get to say, great, it's a Hydro Flask. It comes in 4 colors and it's 32 ounces. We don't need to do other things. So to sort of wrap that up, from the user experience end, what we have to decide, the people that are literally sitting in this room, when we're working with clients, we get to help them say, okay, you have all these attributes, but only the people on the front end should see these ones because it's too confusing for them to see the other ones. Whereas someone on the back end working customer support will actually care and need to know about all the other little attributes because they might need to find a specific part for a broken widget inside a larger, say, knife sharpener. So the attribute set exists whether we like it or not. Whether we map it correctly in the database is another thing. And then whether we show the right things to people and they're not confused or they have a good experience is another.
Okay, interesting insights there. And I definitely want to gauge the temperature in the room whether they should design the template attribute first and then they should figure out the product. So we'll be discussing all of that. But before that, I definitely want to touch this from the user experience perspective. So Dave Meyer, I want to come back to you, and I want you to touch this from the user experience perspective, but more importantly from the SEO perspective, because what Steve is talking about is, hey, figure these things out from the user experience perspective, simplify the options. You don't want to show too many, you don't want to show too few, you want to show exactly what the users are looking for. Now, that's exactly what Google would want, but do you have any insight in terms of how the filter should be designed to please Google?
Yes, and thanks for the context. And I think Steve set it up really well in that there's what we're essentially setting up when we look at attributes is the rules of the game on how we interact with our users, and per previous conversation, both on inside sales and external sales, and how all of that works. So as we come back and we think about how is everyone going to find this information, we need to think about it algorithmically and how all of this works together as far as Google's concerned. And Google's an interesting customer to write for because you really can't over communicate to Google as long as you do it in the right ways. So we can put the right attributes on every product and have those attributes scale out across all of our individual products and SKUs, throwback to last week, right? And make sure that as people are searching that each one of those things shows up. But conversely, we can't stuff each one of our product listings with too many of the same keyword, right? Get over 5% of any given page's content as a specific keyword or key phrase, and Google's going to start lowering the rank score on that particular search term because you're trying to game the system. So that's a delicate balancing act. And so what we need to do as we build out product attributes is make them available, make them contextual. As Chris mentioned, I think with the cars, and when you're looking through, if we go by years and look at different cars, there's not going to be a Tesla prior to 99, right? And so it's automatically going to winnow that out and you're not going to have to worry about it. And so having all of those pieces of context inside of any given e-commerce search is going to dramatically help improve your search engine score by improving the usability of the site. If I can wrap up SEO into one phrase, it's be as useful as possible to your user so that it's easy to find your content before they know your name. So that's what we want to be featuring and what we want to be focusing on.
Interesting insights there. And I have a clarifying question there with respect to the 5% stat that you mentioned. So let's say if I have a page about Tesla, and if I am using the word Tesla more than 5% of the times, then what my understanding from this conversation is, Google is going to flag me that, you should not be using this word more than 5% of the time because you are trying to stuff the keywords here and you are trying to game the system. So tell me a little bit more about how this 5% is computed. Is Google going to count all of those words and then compute, okay, is this appearing 5% of the time among all of the words present on the page? And is that how the 5% is going to be computed?
It's really on what's displayed on any given page.
Okay.
Right. So if I'm writing a page and I'm doing sun visors, or let's do floor mats for Tesla automobiles, right? If I was WeatherTech or whoever, the right way to do that would be to provide, we have the best quality, high quality floor mats for Tesla automobiles. And we have this version of Tesla and this version of Tesla, the Model 3, the Model X, the Model S, whatever, and build all those out. So having the right context for those individual records is the right way to do it. The wrong way to do it would be to have a description under your product that says, for Tesla automobiles, it's important to have the right kind of Tesla floor mats. Tesla floor mats are really important because Tesla, right? And just over and over and over again, right? You know it when you see it. Yeah. And if you're trying to just throw up all over the screen with content that's all the same, you're going to flood and wind up decreasing your effectiveness of your SEO by overstuffing those keywords. So I hope that helps. I mean, it's cool in context, but it's not cool just to try and dump it. If it feels like cheating, it is.
Right. So I am probably going to have one more clarifying question if you don't mind. And that is going to be, let's say if I have the page and if I'm writing naturally, but unintentionally somehow that is coming across as stuffing, would I still be penalized, or do I need to pay attention to the way I am writing?
You do want to pay attention to how you're writing.
Okay.
And what you also should be doing is using the proper tools that Google has at your at your disposal. So Google Search Console, for example, you should be running a scan of your website regularly to make sure that you're not overstuffing your keywords, or that you don't have too many dead links, or that the link quality and link value of the sites and the interrelations that you have on your pages is helping you versus hurting you. Google Search Console is a free tool.
Yeah.
So it's at g.co/search console, right? So everybody should be using that.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Dave, for that insight. Aaron, now I am actually going to move to you. Do you have any thoughts so far based on the conversation you have had? Any experiences from the customer perspective when you are talking to customers in the field? Are you hearing anything related to product filters that you may want to highlight here?
Oh, I have a couple of observations that I'd like to get other folks' feedback on. And we've touched on it, but it's a bigger problem than we've really identified, which is when you as a product owner or as a business owner, and your idea of your product is not the same idea as the people who need to buy your product, there's frequently a conflict there that ends up getting resolved in the favor of the company or the business owner and not in favor of the customer. And how to overcome that, I would really like to hear some more from our experts. I know that Eric has seen this sometimes, but I would imagine Steve and Chris, you've probably seen that as well.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Steve, do you want to touch? And by the way, Missy, I would like to clarify one point there. So even though you want to listen to your customers, sometimes even the insight could be biased as well. Let's say if you are listening to only a couple of customers, not the entire customer base. So we need to make sure that we are being objective. And even if we are listening to, let's say, just the owners, depending upon how much expertise they have in the market, sometimes they sort of have the clear understanding of their market and they might drive this. And even though you might feel that, you know what, I really don't want to listen to the customers because the insight could be biased. So Steve, I don't know, do you guys do any sort of surveys in identifying what you are hearing from the market? How do you validate the point that Aaron mentioned?
I like to do it. I don't like surveys. I think it's too easy for people to ask the wrong questions. I like to use paid advertising for that.
Okay.
And you certainly can go look inside console. You can look inside analytics. You can get a lot of really good information. And that's most often it's as easy as that. The challenge is that if someone's been building a website and they've kind of like been building it, well, they've been making assumptions about what their customers need. They're making their assumptions in the implementation. And then you're going to see that reflected in the data. So your data is going to be biased towards an answer. And so if you go, the fastest way to do it is to go into paid advertising and pay for keywords that aren't long tail, but that give you the long tail answers to what you're looking for. A great example of this is I worked with a company that made braces, ankle braces, knee braces. And they really had pages. They had an ankle brace page, but they happen to have some of the best braces in the world, right? And so they're competing with every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's buying junky braces from China and selling them on Amazon and competing for the same keyword. That's not who they were. And what we did in the paid strategy, just by paying for ankle brace, what we started finding out is that people were actually searching for conditions and injuries and solutions. And so if you've got an ankle brace, you may have sprained your ankle. You may also have plantar fasciitis. And you can't tell by searching for ankle braces yourself as a normal human whether that brace is good for that. Only if you have a landing page somewhere in the world, whether it's on WebMD or on my client's website, that says ankle braces for plantar fasciitis or plantar fasciitis ankle braces, will you get that traffic? And only if you know people are searching for it will you bother making it. So we actually found out that actually people are far more interested in their injury and recovery than they are in the fact that it's a brace, right? Because one of the solutions is to go get surgery. That's why they're on the website or on the web. They don't want to get surgery. So that was an example where the preconceived notion of who we are is that we sell things. It turns out the concept of selling, but the why of who they are was more important. And their customers were telling them, once we started paying for those keywords, we started seeing, oh, this person has plantar fasciitis and they're in a lot of pain and they can't get on the floor and play with their grandkids. That's what they wanted. So
that's fascinating. And one of the cool parts about what's available inside of doing that kind of research and having that extra context available is that Google actually tells you some of that in things as simple and as silly as right at the bottom of every page's search results. If you search for plantar fasciitis or if you search for ankle brace, you scroll down to the bottom, Google is going to tell you related searches. So Google knows what other people are searching for when they're searching for ankle brace. Pay attention to those links or to those pages and keywords and add those to your website. Google's telling you that for free.
Okay, that's amazing, guys. Great insight there. So, Eric, did you have a comment?
Yep, I've got two comments. The first is regarding attributes, starting with what Steve said. You do need to set the attributes up, but the attributes are frequently used in URLs, and that's where the rubber hits the road when it comes to Google finding things. If the attributes are not searchable and findable via a URL, they're not going to be found. The other aspect of search is nobody's mentioned on-site search so far. When somebody gets to your site and they start searching for something, do you know what they're searching for? The sites that we implement use Elasticsearch, and Elasticsearch keeps track of relevance results and also search history. So an administrator needs to go in there every once in a while and take a look at what people are actually searching for. And it also does fuzzy searches, so like wrong spellings and miscapitalizations and dashes and stuff like that. So that needs to inform not only your on-site attributes, but also the how you tailor your Google setup. So that's something that developers can help with, and tools like Elasticsearch are super valuable for that.
Just because I think Aaron brings up such a good point here. On-site search, I think, is a great example, Eric. I like to use the example of people calling things different things, right? Some people will search for a tire, some people will search for a wheel, and some people will search for a spare.
Yep.
And oftentimes, a manufacturer or whomever who is selling online is not thinking about all of the different ways in which people will select their terms. And as Eric mentioned, if you find out that lots of people are searching for spare and you have only put information in your site related to tire and or wheel or only one, then you're going to notice that these search results are coming up and you have no place to direct them.
Yeah,
so perfect. That could be a place where they are exiting. You can also, I do find, and this is where analytics can become very helpful for customers, is that they go into the detail and see where are their customers exiting and what did they do prior to that informed the exit. So what occurred? And if it is a term that you haven't accounted for, how could you account for that? So rather than, you're not really asking your customers which terms they want at this point, your data is telling you this is what your customers are doing, and you're not winning their business because they're not getting to what they're looking for. So you let the data help you refine your either attributes or your descriptions of your products or what have you. So I think it's a very good point, and I think data over time helps refine, and that's why e-commerce is always a journey, why we're always working on it, why you can't set it and forget it, all of those things. So
I am actually going to have a clarifying question for, I don't know whether this is going to be really for Eric, Chris, or Dave, one of these three. So Eric actually mentioned that you should have these attributes as part of the URL, because when you are going to have as part of URL, that's probably going to have higher weightage from the search engine optimization perspective when the search term is going to be part of the URL. Now, Chris's point, when she's saying that, have all of those synonyms that you are going to have, because everybody may have their own preferences of how they are going to be searching. So obviously, you are not going to have these overlapping filters on your site. If you do that, then your customer experience is going to be super confusing. So how do you handle these synonyms? Are you going to have the redirect for the synonyms to a page? Let's say if somebody is searching for spare, for when they are actually trying to get to a tire page. And now majority of your users might be searching for tire, and you may have that option as part of your product filter. So would you redirect the spare one to your tire, or would you rather have that keyword as part of the page so that you are getting the traffic? I don't know who would like to touch on this point. Eric, Chris, or Dave? I would like to hear from all three.
I can tell you how we've helped our customers, but I'm certainly open to learning as well from everybody else. We have used synonyms so that the synonym works, but I also think adding the keywords in the description of the product is valuable as well. So if many industrial manufacturers do not have a lot of long form descriptions, they're just not there yet. They're working on it. That's an improvement area. Again, use the 80-20 rule. Identify where you're losing business or where you think you can continue to win more business. Focus on those descriptions. Try to get those keywords in there. So I would say that those two ways are how we've handled it.
Interesting. Eric, do you have any experience how to handle synonyms?
Yeah, I agree with what Christina said, because if it's in the content, then it's going to be indexed by Google. And if you're dealing with a search result, suppose you have a dozen products with this term in it. One thing occurred to me, like wrench, also called a spanner. Most Americans go, what's a spanner? If you search for spanner, it returns wrenches. Click on the product. It does what's called a 301 redirect to the canonical product page, which is the single product page. So you wouldn't get some sort of old school redirect with some really quarter-mile long URL. Instead, you get the actual destination canonical product page.
Okay, amazing. Dave, I'm pretty sure you have tons and tons of insights from Google's perspective. So how do we please Google boss here with respect to synonyms?
Well, everything that we're saying is of course spot on, and the additional lever that I would offer is giving even more context through meta descriptions, alt tags. You'd be shocked, nobody on this screen would be shocked, how many times people will just upload a product image and it'll be 809132.jpg or whatever, instead of being a rich text that has the product name and the synonyms and the content in it, as well as the alt text to tell what it is. So adding media and adding links and making sure that your links to product descriptions and information have the right metadata on top of that. Every additional signal that you give Google that links back to the product attribute or description and the synonyms therein is going to help you. Google keeps getting smarter and it keeps adding context, and we're trying to build forward with Penguin, Panda, all the other algorithm updates that are coming out. And there's another one. Well, there's one coming out every couple of months, but the latest algorithm updates that are coming up are being built around contextual search, because we're trying to build more towards voice search. And we'll see how many of our devices pop up when I do this. But okay, Google, if we say that and we talk into our devices and offer up or hey Google, when we offer up a search, we are going to talk and ask that question. We type and search differently than we talk. And so you have to start thinking more contextually and conversationally inside of that. Google keeps getting better at that, and there's broad match, phrase match, and exact match for the different kinds of results that you're going to get. But make sure that you're giving as much context inside of descriptions, inside of meta descriptions, and inside of media in order to get those results. Because you're trying to give Google those signals that we are a useful resource for this search.
Amazing. Love it. I mean, you have so many places where you can utilize and put this information, and Google is actually providing you all those places so that you can utilize them effectively. Steve, now you have tons and tons of comments, I know, on the overall conversation around synonyms. So how do you handle synonyms in your space?
I 100% agree with everything that everybody just said. Like taken as a whole, you have to identify the difference between a tire and a wheel, as Chris said, and you've got to put that, you have to have those words in. And, for SEO and SEM, as Dave was saying, you want to increase the density and richness of the content by basically more words, right? Google is getting smarter, and in most cases, it knows that a divan and a couch are the same thing. In cases like wheel and tire, it happens to be an example. It's a great one that If you ask anybody on the street the difference between a wheel and tire, they'd say it's the same. But if you ask somebody who works at Les Schwab, they'll say, no, a wheel is a rim and a tire is the rubber that goes around it.
Right.
Google has a hard time with those things, but that's just because we as humans have a hard time with it. When it comes to on-site search, what I was going to suggest or point out is Eric had mentioned Elastic, and there's a bunch of other tools that are on-site search machines, so to speak, and they literally are connecting to your attribute set and your product titles and your short and long descriptions. And there's probably a checkbox in the back. In fact, there is, where you can say, I don't want it to search the short description and the long description. I only want it to search my attributes, and you can turn off and on attributes. More importantly is if you have someone who's managing those search terms and looking in the back end, as Eric suggested, you can actually look at a search and it'll say, oh, somebody searched for wheel or rim, and you know they didn't get anything because you didn't have it on your site. Well, the first response is you're going to do what Chris and Dave said, which is I'm going to go put that on there because I know people are using it. What you're not going to do is go name the product. This is a tire, wheel, rim, and whatever the other three synonyms are, because it's confusing to the customer. You're still going to have a product name. What you can do on the back end, though, is similar to what Eric was talking about, which is you can say, if someone types in the fact that they want a wheel, I want to direct them to this specific URL every time. So you can circumvent or override the search results. And instead of having them get a search results of like 100 things or 0 things, you can say, if someone does this, I actually just want them to go to this product page, or I want them to go to this category page. And if you do that for about a year on your website, you probably won't have to do it again.
Yeah, you can literally put in search substitution words that actually don't appear on the front end. The synonyms, you can put search synonyms in Elasticsearch, and that's actually where the majority of the work comes. Because you think of brand names are notorious for being misspelled or dashes or 2 words when it's 1 word or all kinds of things like that. So it's a great tool.
Okay, amazing, guys. So I definitely want to get into sort of this psychology of the design when we think of designing the product filters. So even though we have touched on a lot of different issues, but when you design a website, you have to think deeper overall if you really want to have optimized design on your website. And I know, Eric, you have done 2 different videos, and I know that you had tons and tons of insights there on those videos. So what are we not covering here overall? Let's say if I'm the executive, I'm actually trying to design my site. I'm getting pitched by, let's say, 5 different marketing agencies. They all have their own processes the way they want to design. So what is the right way of designing the product filter? Let's say if I want to do it for my business.
Well, the right way is to design it to pretty much everybody's point, what the front-end user is expecting to find out, whether they're a consumer or they're a sales rep or they're an industry specifier, whatever they're looking for. So here's a couple concrete examples. I'm a climber. I'm looking for a jacket that's made of merino wool, or a base layer made of merino wool, but I want a hood. You'd be surprised by how many sites you try to search for merino wool long underwear or base layer that you can't find one with a hood. That's a really simple example and pretty common. On the other hand, a much more advanced type of search would be, we did a site for an electrical integrated circuit manufacturer, one of these people that Steve mentioned they literally have about 75 or 80 attributes on these products. It's making me get a headache.
Hives, right?
But they search for ranges. So if they're looking for a Schottky or a transistor or something like that for a satellite, they may have a particular example that they need, say 1200 amps or, for a high power transistor. So they may search for a range, but maybe that product doesn't exist. So you don't want to put a left nav with every single possible integrated circuit amperage. That would be ridiculous because you'd have a left nav that would have, 85 things in it. Instead, we would use a slider. So this gets to your question, Sam, about how to design this. We have sites where there is a slider, but there's also an input box. So if somebody's typing in, I want to type in between 10 and 1200 amps or 10 and 200 amps, you can search multiple ways, depending upon, we're trying to think, well, how is this person going to search for that particular product? Also, this ties back to the ERP system, similar problem. Industrial motors or other equipment which operates in certain ranges of power or capacity, like you think maybe pumps, for example, they move a certain volume of product or water or whatever they're pumping in a certain range. The engineer who's designing this system needs a pump. I mean, put yourself in that person's position. They need a pump with such and such diameter. It's a certain amperage and voltage, and it will move so much material per second, so many cubic feet or cubic centimeters per second or per minute. So you have to design a system that allows them to search in that manner. You can't just say, oh, here's this Danfoss pump and it's 1200 CFM. That is not good enough, because they can go off to some other site and they can search this way. So the other thing I would tell the CEOs or the product managers or product owners is, what are your competitors doing? Do you like what they're doing? Are you getting beat up in the marketplace because your site sucks compared to theirs? We literally come out and say that. A little harsh, but what can I say? Competition is vicious. So, that is what I would tell them. How do your customers search for products? You could part of what your sales reps say is valid for sure, because they may look for things in a different way, but your end users, product specifiers, architects, consumers, they may look for things in a different manner. You got to encompass all of that. And hopefully you can have a vision that doesn't make that too agglomerated and confusing. You should be able to put together a site that operates for both of those audiences.
You all know more. I think I'm a good case study of the person that doesn't know as much as you. And I think a person listening to this would hear, on the one hand, you have to have the psychology down pat for whoever is doing the search. And on the other hand, you're learning over time. So what's the advice, the happy medium? Like, if I'm like, I can't even do it, where's a good place to start?
Hire a pro. Talk to the people on the screen, right? Call Eric. He knows his stuff, and he's going to tell you your website sucks.
No, he will not.
They don't know. Aaron will.
My comment to that would be to start with what the customer knows. Customer service departments have been taking calls for a long time, so they typically know what a customer is coming with. I have a real life example. I have a Samsung refrigerator. It has the ice machine and it does the water, and every 3 months I need a filter, right? So I need to change that filter on there. So what do I know when I'm coming to the website? I know I have a Samsung. Do I know what size filter I need? No, unless you tell me where I need to go on my refrigerator to find that, I wouldn't know. But so you might need to have some filters or methodology to help me narrow down to get to the exact filter that I need, or at least show me where I go to get the information that you're asking me for to get me to the right filter. But I do think that most companies have at least a starting point, and that is with what do their customers know? In our world, customers know the asset that they own. So again, we sell to help sell parts for equipment manufacturers. So that equipment, that person who owns the asset, they know that they own this piece of equipment. They know their serial number or their VIN number. So they may start with that, and then there needs to be attributes potentially underneath that to get them into the area of the machine that they are going to actually purchase a component for. But we just have to get customers around the fact that they have to think about what do their customers know when they're coming there, and that's going to be the step through process that they're going to take. And then through time and the data, then they can do the further refinement. So that's how I would answer that, Erin.
I have a follow-up question too. I posted in the chat. And this is me as a consumer. This is me as a user. When am I using Google search? When am I using on-site search? And when am I using filtering? I think for the customer, they are all kind of serving the same purpose. But when you're designing a site, how are you segmenting those services and what their job is? Or is it really all the same thing and it's just different ways to do the same thing?
Definitely different contexts that you want to pay attention to. And, on-site search and the interconnections and links that you get inside is going to already assume that the customer knows a few things, right? So the different search terms could be much more specific or easy. You wouldn't always want to drive people all the way back out to Google, because every time you bring Google in, you also bring in the opportunity for Google to display a link or a website that might not be yours.
Right.
And so making sure to offer them up that context as well is going to be helpful. So, it's thinking about it kind of holistically from broad search world. They don't know anything about me. I'm probably going to be focusing on my SEO strategy, my Google strategy. Once they find me, they've gotten to my website, then I'm going to focus on my inside search strategy. And for folks that are sales reps that are making the interconnections, I'm going to hook them back in, and maybe I need to pay some attention to my ERP or my CRM to make sure that those connections are working, and then I know how many items I have left in my order SKU or my orders, right? So that I know what my inventory looks like. So you need to give the right stuff so that your sales and your marketing and your customer can all get together and find what they're looking for in an easy, in a customer or end user thoughtful way.
Mm-hmm. I've just been stuck where the filtering just ends up causing more frustration, and I wish I could just say, this is what I want. Like Eric's example, I want a merino wool base layer with a hoodie. I know that that's what I want, but now I'm filtering and I click a hoodie and suddenly all of the options that I still wanted to consider are gone. So, is filtering going to last for the average customer, and is search just going to get so refined and so good that we don't need the filtering? So that's another way of asking the same question. Like, what is the different job of those two things, and what's best for the end user?
Well, I can jump in and say there's an awful lot of bad examples. I mean, bad sites out there, that bad behavior, you could say, or maybe first or second generation filtering that did that, behaved that way, but it's gotten a lot better. So this is a case where early adopters, if they have not updated their site, they're probably in a worse situation than if somebody who's kept up with, updated extensions.
Yeah, and I would say that filtering, I don't think further refinement on filters is always the answer. I do think ensuring that you can find your wool merino hoodie is important in search. If that's really what you want to find, then we need to make sure that you're able to find it from search. Because sometimes I think of filtering as I got to browse and keep finding what I want. If I know what I want the site to handle it. So I think we as companies who are selling products online have to think about making sure we can get to that person that knows exactly what they want, get them there. For those that are still browsing and figuring it out, then we have the ability to get through all the filters to narrow their results.
I had one more thought relating to that. So far, we've only talked about more or less people coming in through Google. There's other ways people come in.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you sign up for a newsletter or a sale flyer and you get the deal. I mean, we're getting blasted right now in the outdoor industry with everybody has sales, right? Prana gear, 20% off, Mountain Hardware, 15% off. So you click that link in the email, then you're immediately on the site. So you're not necessarily looking for a hoodie when you click that link in the email. You have to do it on site. So you need both. You need people from Google. You need the attributes that Google can index. And then on site, you also need a good, solid way for users to find those products through filtering.
And let me get even messier for a second. We can talk about AI and the fact that pretty soon you're going to expect to be able to grab your phone and take a picture of the part or the thing or the hoodie that you like and get that result back to get you right to the right thing. So I don't even know how to get that stuff set up. I mean, I just jumped into a pool that I can't swim in, but it sure is interesting to start thinking about.
Yeah, I think you're right. AI, and you had mentioned voice as well. I don't think it's going to be that much. And again, this is speculative and crystal ball stuff, but knowing what we know, how can we be prepared so that we don't have to start all over again once some of these services like voice and AI have a bigger role in the marketplace?
It's going to be a really interesting switch, Aaron, and it's a great question because right now the users at least have a role to play in the results they receive. So I type in studded snow tires, and I'm going to get 10 results on any search engine. Just even remove Google from the list. Or if I go to Les Schwab and I type in studded snow tires, I'm going to get a bunch of tires, right? But in the voice world, you're going to say, order me a gallon of Clorox bleach, and you're going to get a gallon of Clorox bleach. And we don't know yet if that piece of commerce is going to break all our rules and notions of capitalism.
So AI, the picture photograph is going to be there where you can search based on that. The coupons are going to be there. The filters are going to be there. Every user is different. They all have different needs when they actually come to the site. So everything has a place. And, going back to Aaron's example, let's say you have the filter. If you don't know how to use the filters, you also have an option to be able to search right outside, or you can go back to Google. Who's stopping you? Okay, so I think the right site, if you really build it for everybody, then you are going to have probably all those options, including really smart product filters, that is going to meet the needs of the most common users that are probably going to be using product filters. So on that note, I guess, we have 2 more minutes, and I want to make sure that we really touch what defines the term suck, which has been used a lot of times in this conversation. So I know that a lot of beautiful sites can suck as well. It's not that just because they are pretty, they are good. They could have really bad product filter functionality, but a lot of not so pretty sites could be very functional from the user experience perspective. So do you guys have, Eric, and I don't know if you're going to have any sort of examples in terms of really bad design from the product filter perspective, just in 20 seconds.
We would tell them we would tell them we can improve the user experience.
That's right.
But I mean, can you offer any concrete examples in terms of what is really bad design for the product filter?
Really bad design is putting design on a system that allows the user to only select one thing. Then the page refreshes and they've got to scroll back up and down and all over the place. That's super frustrating to customers. That's possibly the number one thing that they hate.
Love it. Steve, do you have any specific example, really terrible product filter design example?
Yeah, I think the main example is when people basically confuse what attributes actually are for. And I saw a website that basically added whether a product was hemmed or not to the global attribute set. And so they were selling pants and shirts and hats, and only one pant in their entire catalog could be hemmed, and so this was a major navigational selection that was completely irrelevant to nobody cared whether a pant was hemmable or not. Only when they got to buy it would they care.
Good
and
example.
Nobody's searching for the word hemmed. That was, as if that was a search term. In addition, on this website, the category name was men's, the women's name was women's, shirts was shirts. But if you're Tommy Bahama, you're not selling shirts. You're selling Hawaiian shirts. So put the word there. Name the thing. Don't beat around the bush and try it. You're not competing with Walmart for the term shirts, ever.
Okay, amazing, guys. So we are running out of time, and we need to make sure that everybody is able to, communicate their closing thoughts. So we are going to spend 10 seconds with everyone. Chris, do you want to share your closing thoughts in 10 seconds?
Yeah, I would say that product filters are really critical to the success of any website. I like what you said earlier, Sam. They will work in conjunction with the other aspects of your site. So I would end with that. Let's not forget that they're searching, but this is one other tool set in the tool of a complete e-commerce site to help your customers find what they're looking for. So do the work there to help them. So
absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Chris, for that. Dave, do you want to quickly share 10 seconds or less?
Yes. So think about what your customers need and make sure that you're providing that information in the context in which they're expecting to find it. That is how you get found and make your website usable for SEO and to help your customers make that sale.
Okay, amazing. Love it. Erin, one sentence, closing thoughts.
Call us. Any one of us. We'll help you.
Okay, love it. Eric, your closing thoughts in one sentence.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that there are many great solutions out there, and we can deliver, anybody here can deliver a really super experience.
Okay, Steve, your closing thoughts and not a sales pitch.
Thank you. This has been great, Sam.
All right, thanks, guys. And that's it for today. We spoke about product filters. On that note, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here. I appreciate each one of you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Eric Landman and Erin Courtney, head over to earthlinginteractive.com. It's EARTHLINGINTERACTIVE.com. If you want to learn more about Chris Harrington, head over to genalpha.com. It's GENALPHA.com. If you want to learn more about Dave Meyer, head over to buzzyweb.com. It's BIZZYWEB.com. If you want to learn more about Steve Rice, head over to .comjungle.com. It's DOTCOMJUNGLE.com. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Jeff White, who discusses why it is so important to identify the ideal customer profile for your offerings to streamline your growth. Also, the interview with Dave Meyer from Busy Web, who discusses how marketing automation works and why that is important to understand customer journeys. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.